Hello, everyone. How are you? Hope you are doing amazing today on this Thursday. I was trying to do a live and for some reason was getting tons of feedback. So I said, you know what? I still have great content I wanted to share with all of you today. So I'm going to kick it old school. I'm going to record the video, which I would have been sharing with you guys right now, and just go through, let you know a little bit about French phonics. I get a lot of questions from parents all the time about French phonics. I know the importance of it. I think you probably hear a lot about it if you are, you have a young learner who's learning French, someone who wants to learn French. So let's just take some time together today, sit down, grab your coffee, just have a tea, and let's go through a little lesson, a little insight about French phonics. As usual, you're welcome to send me any questions, maybe even any examples or any things you haven't been able to quite solve with your little ones or with you, even if you're learning French. And I'm happy to talk through it with you. And let's just figure it out together, okay? We're here to learn together. And that's the great thing about learning. It never stops. And you're always going to be learning something new. So French phonics. So we all know that reading, it's literally a universal critical skill, right? And in every aspect of learning, reading is going to be a part of it. If you're even learning to put together something physically, there's going to be some instructions, a manual to go through to get that understanding. And we know that 1 in 5 children have difficulties learning to read. So don't feel if your child is in that boat, they're alone. It is very, very common. Reading is a challenge. It is, right? But it's through identification, phonemic identification, that children will obtain greater success and develop a love of reading. And the awareness comes from two main measures of phonological awareness. The first one being sound isolation, and the second one being phoneme blending. These two are critical. So why do phonetics matter for French learners? You're probably asking yourself that as a parent. Why does it even matter? So I've tried to capture, there's so many reasons, but I've tried to capture just a couple to have the conversation with you guys today. The first one being, it helps you pronounce words in French. So if you're looking to read, if you're looking to better understand a language and speak it and become more fluent, this is all, phonetics is all a part of it. And so it helps you pronounce words in French. Secondly, it marks important language differences. So more often than not, if you are a new speaker, there are going to be some maybe embarrassing mistakes that you make when you're speaking. And it's because there is that failed distinguishing between different sounds that may sound similar. So once you get to know how the letters function, what sound they output when they're put together in, a certain arrangement, that's when you'll get the most use out of your learning. So it is a distinguisher. Having it right will make you sound right too. Thirdly, it will help boost your confidence in conversation. So of course, when you have your phonetic sounds and it's accurate, this is going to make you want to speak more. It's going to make you want to practice more. You now have the right tools, the right pronunciation, that really elegant way of having those words roll off your tongue. And that's obviously boosting your confidence, yeah? So how to master French phonetics? How do we master this thing? And I'm huge on breaking things down. I'm huge on taking things in a bite-sized pieces. You're not gonna take a whole apple and one bite and your apple's done. No, it's best enjoyed if you're taking little bites. That's how you learn something. And it's also better digestible. Imagine if we were able to swallow an apple, what that would do to our insides. So taking a bite, one bite at a time, is really that way for you to get the whole entire concepts, but also in a way that you're able to practice and practice in a way that's going to be useful and that you're able to retain. So firstly, I just said it, practice. Practice daily with the phonetic alphabet. So, depending on what level of French your little one or even you are learning, this comes at different points in the learning journey. There are instructors or teachers who will teach this. I would recommend definitely at the very beginning. It's a key when starting to learn your phonetics and learn how it all kind of comes together. So practicing daily once you do get that instruction and get to know what a phonetic alphabet is, practicing daily. There is no key, there is no magic to learning a language. There are ways to best learn it, there are ways to best teach it, there are ways to adapt it and adjust it depending on what kind of learner you are. But if you're not practicing, that learning will all be in vain. So practice, 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 one step at a time. Secondly, focus on French vowels. So we know that in French, vowels, French words, things are pronounced very differently. And sometimes people even call it a little bit nasally, the French, the French language and the French vowels. So there are pure vowels, semi-vowels, and nasal sounds. And if we wanted to get very technical, don't know if I want to do all that today, but pure vowels, those tend to appear on their own in words, okay, and are pronounced in the same way. Pure vowels are listed in a table so you can learn them, what they typically sound like. So this is, I don't want to say, full out memorization, but those pure vowels will always sound that way. So it is an exercise of memorization to really help it stick. But of course, with our first thought we shared here, it's about practicing, right? So practicing and taking those pure vowels one step at a time. Semi-vowels, those have a sound that might sound somewhat distorted from the spelling. So they're very easy to get to understand, but it isn't always that obvious uh, combination that you think, oh, for sure it's this way. No, it's gonna sound slightly off, but that as well, with practice, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. Nasal sounds. So these can be a little harder to comprehend when spoken, but they can definitely be learned. Okay. The phrase, for example, a sentence example is un bon vin blanc, which means a good white wine. And that's typically used as an example of French nasal vowels. So listen to me again. Un bon vin blanc. I'm in that nasal canal there with that pronunciation. I'm in the throat, I'm in the nose. So these are all just a little bit of the intricacies, but focusing on the French vowels, where you need to memorize, go for it. Push your little ones, push yourself to memorize those vowels that are the obvious ones. So the pure vowels, the semi vowels, as well as the nasal sounds. Thirdly, source out the silent letters. So French has some complications where sometimes some of the letters they are silent depending on where they appear. So the letter H is usually a letter in French that is silent, and there are some final consonants. So, for example, the word blanc in French, Blanc, which we know as the color white, blanc, you don't pronounce that C at the end, right? You don't say blanc. You don't say that. And it's just certain rules that you'll come to know and that your children who are learning French will come to know. And some things will become second nature. There's sometimes where, in my own French learning journey, some things become automatic. I wouldn't even perhaps know the meaning of a word growing up, but seeing it in a certain combination, I can pronounce it, number one. And number two, even know some of these unspoken rules. So know which letters would now be silent based on my knowledge of the entire phonetic landscape. So there's some insight, right? So don't feel discouraged if maybe that is a little bit of a challenge right now. You'll get there. You'll totally get there. 4, note the difference in French consonants. So, like I said, guys, today is really not about giving you all the intricacies. You might have younger ones who aren't even here yet, but this is just to give you a bigger picture of our phonics and how we teach it, what we focus on, what we know to be important and to be effective when learning the language. So, when we're saying to note the differences in French consonants, that mainly here is focusing on where perhaps in the language, in the sound, a little more attention is being placed. So we can notice, or perhaps you can start to observe now, the letter R in French. It does get a lot of attention because it is a little bit of a roll, but it's not quite on Espanol. It's not in that Spanish roll. So there's a little focus on there, and that has always been one of the more difficult things for people to grasp. It's actually one of the things that I encourage in my students. They don't always come in being able to do that R. And I actually think it's a little bit of science, but I think it's a recessive gene. All my science guys in here, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a recessive gene to not be able to naturally roll your tongue. I don't think it's something you can learn. So it's either you can or you can't. But I've learned some great tools. I actually can't. But I have gone through some great training, gone through some really extensive programming in my learning where we can almost fake it. We can fake that sound. And when you're speaking, it sounds as elegant, it sounds as beautiful, and you really master that R sound. Okay. So knowing how to do that, when to put the emphasis on that is also key. And there's so many rules, but that was just a light example for the specific one. So noticing the difference in the French consonants. Number 5, focus on the boundaries between spoken words. So many French words purposefully run together. We even have this beautiful thing called liaison. It's really just the linking of certain words. If a consonant falls at the end of a word and a vowel begins the next set of words, we are encouraged just to blend them all together. Make it just fall together. In French, we say my love as an example, which is mon amour. It's 2 words. It's mon and amour. So mon as in my, M-O-N, that ends with the letter N, and amour would start with the letter A. So we're just so into blending that all together, mon amour. And when you're reading a text, when you're speaking, it just sounds, it's so beautiful. It's like such a beautiful and elegant language. And we love to encourage just noticing when to focus on the boundaries and even when to break them, when to have them kind of all blend together. So I love me some liaisons, love my liaisons. And number 6, finally, learn how to stress your words correctly. So like every foreign language, French has a very specific way of stressing your words. And this has to be learned. You know, it has to be learned if you want to hold a decent conversation. And there's even tweaks in that where it isn't just about what words to stress, but you'll learn certain lingo, even certain ways of pausing and certain ways of enhancing or saying things for emphasis. And it's all a part of it, guys. It's about learning the steps of the language step by step. It's about focusing on one thing at a time. It's about getting that right mindset, as I talked about last week, 2 weeks ago, getting that right mindset in order to get better. No one comes out of the gate. Even if you're a native speaker, sometimes you're not perfect at the language. We teach many native speakers. We teach people who know French is maybe their 4th language, 5th language. So we want to make sure that we're doing things in an orderly way in terms of how we're learning the language, but also in a digestible way. No one wants to approach a complicated language in a way that is complicated. So our job is to simplify it. Our job is to make it fun and really just continue to cheer you on, be your coach through that journey, and you'll get there. We promise. I've been there. I've been there. So I'm a living witness that it can be done. So I just want to encourage you guys to, keep going with your French learning, keep encouraging your children to practice one step at a time. Keep encouraging them to make the mistakes. Don't have them feel discouraged when they're not getting it all the way. We are always here to support you. And as usual, send me a personal message, write it in the group if you guys are having a specific challenge, because the point is you are never alone. We're on this learning journey together, and we are happy to support you in it. So hang in there, enjoy the weather wherever you are, and we'll chat to you again soon. Take care, guys.